So last time we talked about social media, the idea of how you can present yourself to a larger group of people. And it was primarily about Facebook, a little bit about Twitter, and there were other things we could have covered, and if you want to, we'll go into them at some point. But today we thought we'd kind of balance that with one-to-one communications, primarily email, iChat, IM, instant messaging, Skype, even, frankly, word processing if we get that far, because that's generally a one-to-one. You're generally writing a letter and sending it to somebody for some reason. And all of these things share a lot in common about how you structure the text, how you deal with the text, and how you get it to where you want it to go. In front of you, the handout that I've given you today has a lot of the most common terms that are used in email, IM, and other forms of one-to-one communication. They are not in an order in which I'm going to present them. We're going to just kind of go through this free form, but they're in alphabetical order. So if somebody says to you, well, what about that bounce? You can go look and say, oh, bounce. Oh, I know what that is now. Because there are a lot of terms that, once you read them, they make sense, but if you haven't dealt with them before, they can seem rather cryptic. So that's in there, and then the vintage. We'll talk about emoticons, and there's a chart in there about emoticons, and there's a fun little graphic on the back about Skype. So there's a bunch of things we can deal with. And while we're doing this, please stop me for questions. This is a great time to let's take this free form and make sure you understand as we go along. So one of the primary communications these days, one-to-one, is email. And a lot of people have trouble just understanding all the little bits and pieces and how you use parts of email. So let's talk about that. What we're seeing on the screen is Apple's Mail program. This is very similar. It looks different, but the functionality is absolutely identical to Outlook, to Entourage, even to webmail. Because you're all dealing with the same idea of moving this digital packet of information from one place to the other. So the first way you're going to need to know about that is the parts of the header. Header is in your dictionary. And the header is, as you might expect, at the top of the document, either in sending or receiving. And what it's going to do is it's actually going to talk about the actual information of how this piece got from one place to the other. This is from Adrian, who's our sound person for the second service. Subject, what's it about this Sunday? When was it sent? Who was it sent to? Which address? He CC'd it to a different address of mine. And if I want to reply back to him, where am I going to reply? I'm going to reply to this address here. So that's a default that says if I hit this reply button, and I'll actually put these up here with the words. If I hit the reply button here, it's going to send an email back to Adrian. Now,
how did you do that?
Now, again, different programs have it handled differently, but I believe Outlook and Entourage and Mail all do the same thing, which is you have the option of having the words, the icons, or both in the header, in the top toolbar, not the header. And what I did, and what you can always do on the PC and the Mac if you want more information, is you can do a right click or a control click. They're the same thing. They perform the same function. Holding down the control key and clicking gives you a right click. If you have a mouse that has multiple buttons, I can do it here on my trackpad. I can do it with a mouse. I would perform the same thing here. And I just told it icon and text. I could also go in and customize that and add things. What you're seeing up here isn't the standard toolbar. I've added a few things that I use a lot. Or actually, excuse me, this is the standard toolbar. I'm not in my account. I usually add the ability to do what's called a redirect, and we'll talk about that in a second. It's a special type of forward, and a few other things that I would put up there. Okay, so reply. What's going to happen if I reply to this message right now from Adrian is it's going to create a new message with all the information he sent me, and I can give my reply. Here. And it's going to send it to Adrian. Fine, very simple. But one of the key things you can do, and one of the key things you can do to make your friends really, really happy with you, is we don't need all this information to go back to Adrian. So, he says, please let me know. Now what I've done is I've actually just clicked, and you can drag through the text to select it, or drag down and select all. So I've selected just the portion of the email that I'm responding to. I don't need to respond to the fact that he's chosen not to go away for spring break. If I hit reply now, it's only going to take the relevant part of the information that I want to reply to. And now I can reply. Yes?
Does that count for PCs? Or
Absolutely. It absolutely does. And very few people do this. But it's very, very helpful. And here's another way it's helpful. Let's decide that I do want to respond to each of the things he's got here. So I'm going to select all of this and hit reply. But now I can do a little bit of word processing with this. Let's see. So if I click here before I'm sorry and put in a couple of line breaks, I might answer something right here. Okay, sounds good, right? Now, it was yesterday, I might have something to reply there, and I might have something to reply here. So I will actually break the email down. Instead of giving them a bunch of paragraphs to read, and they maybe don't remember what it was they asked, you can break it up into digestible chunks and digestible answers and really help the person that you're sending the email to.
I have a suggestion if you do that. And that is the very first thing you write above the on March 28th is see below.
Right.
Because I can't tell you how many people I've done that to.
And they never see the answer.
They're like, blank, you sent me a blank. No, it's in there. So.
Mike?
When you have, to be able to do that, do you have to have that selected? Or can you just, when you hit the reply?
You could remove the stuff you don't want.
Yeah, I mean, you can break it up.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is just basic word processing. We haven't sent the message yet. It's not a special type of thing. So in any place that you can deal with text, you can do the same thing. You can put in a return to drop it down. You can delete text. You can add text in. One here and then one here. Bruce?
Can you do it in color? Like red or something?
Yes, we'll get to that in a second. That's a type called rich text, and it's in your dictionary. Yes.
I was going to say that if you're going to forward something or respond, make sure you push those before you start fooling around, because I've deleted whole emails by mistake.
Well, and that's actually a fault of your email program, because they should not let you touch the message sent to you other than just delete it entirely. You should not be able to modify it at all until you hit those buttons, because it's not yours until you create the new message. Now, yeah, the address.
What's the relation to the address book here?
Okay, so on the Mac, the mail program reads your Apple address book. On the PC, it's going to read the address book that's in Outlook. Or if you're using webmail, it's going to read the address book that is on the webmail site. So, if, for example, if you have an email with the church here, Darrell does all of her stuff with webmail. She doesn't use a program. She actually has an address book that's online on our servers. So that's where her addresses are stored. What the address book allows you to do, and I'm going to show you a great trick in a second, is to just start typing the person's name without having to know what their email address is. Or in the case of Tandy or I, we have multiple email addresses for different purposes. And if you know that about us, you might say, well, this is relating to Girl Scouts, I'm going to send it this way to Tandy, or this is relating to church, I'm going to send it that way. So the relationship is whether the address book is in the program, on the server, or on your computer, depending on the program, it looks up there. For people who specifically have Macs and you get into trouble, there's one silly thing they did, and I'm not going to put that out in the general because it's going to confuse a lot of people. I don't want to do that.
But
Yeah.
if this is the first time you have responded.
Right. Oh, okay.
And it didn't have it in the address book, does that
Yep.
automatically put it in the address book?
Okay, let's see.
It doesn't, but
Usually says
it will stay within the system. So once you've gotten an email from somebody,
Right.
it won't actually attach their name to it necessarily.
Right.
it'll start to show up.
All the email programs, except for the webmail programs, will actually track the email addresses that you have received email from. It's called a previous recipients list. And all of those emails are now fair game for you to send email to in the future. So even if I don't have, which I don't have alerts at Mynexia in my address book, so it just comes up as the email address, no name. If I, in the future, want to send an email to this place, I can start typing alerts, and this is one of the options that will come up because I've received email from them, and it's tracking that all the way down.
But if you don't want to receive from them, can you get rid of them?
You can block them, depending on your email program. And they all handle it differently, but you can put them on a bad list, and then they'll just automatically go to trash or whatever. The delete key is your friend. You know, honestly, one touch of the delete key and this email's gone. I've actually had to go into the trash to find this. I do actually want these alerts, but as soon as I see them, I acknowledge them and I move on. Now, one thing that's really wonderful, and this is not in all programs, but this does work on the Mac. I'm not sure about the PC. So here I have this address alerts at Mynexia. If I want to add that to my address book, I could switch over the address book and type it out. Or I actually have the ability to click right here and add it to my address book. And it automatically creates it. Huh? I just clicked. It was just a straight click on this little, on the end of the email here. And it gives me the option to add it to the address book. And I can put a name with it and so forth. And I can even add it to somebody's previous records. So, you know. Huh? There you go. So that I just wasn't sure of because I haven't used it. So look to see if you have this, because it will save you so much time and so many errors. Because you go over to type that cryptic email that somebody has and you miss the 3 in the middle of it or whatever it is, and it doesn't work. This way, you're assured to get it right. So very, very fun little thing. Now, the reason I started with reply is actually because of reply all. One of the most misused or underused portions of email. A lot of us get email from a group of people. We're part of a committee. We're part of a team. We're part of something where it's going to be sent to 5 or 6 people. Sometimes you want to reply to the person who sent it to you. Reply. Sometimes you want to reply to everybody. Reply all. So what happens so many times is that you'll send out a message to 10 people, and then they'll respond to you, and the other 9 have no clue what they said. They didn't give the answer because they didn't share it with everybody. Whenever you're working on the computer, the number one thing you can do is look at all the options you have on the screen before you act. Even when you create that email, I'll do it all the time. I'll hit reply and then start typing and realize, no, this is supposed to go to everybody. I'll back out and hit reply all and then put the text back in. But I want to make sure that I'm handling that properly so that everybody gets the information. Oh, I never saw that. Well, because I forgot to send it out that way. Forward is a very nice little option. Let's go back to Adrian's email here. There's Adrian. Not that. Where's Adrian? There he is. Okay. All right. So if I want to now forward this on to Jason, for example, now it takes the entire email. I could have selected a portion of it only. I don't have to take all this stuff. And who it's going to is now blank because it doesn't know who I'm going to forward it to. So this is, again, a nice place to be courteous to the person you're sending it to, do a little bit of word processing, and say, you know what, Jason really doesn't care about all of this. I'll do that, and he'll see what Adrian wrote to me. And then I can comment, hey, Jason, here's the answer to our question. And then he'll see it. Very, very useful. If you have an attachment, if you have another file in your email, frequently the email program will ask you, shall I send that to? Do you want just the text, or do you want that attachment to go along with it? So make sure you pay attention to that dialog box. It'll always come up as a dialog to say, to really get your attention. Stop and pay attention to me now. Now, there's the funny thing that this does is it puts this blue line along the side. This indicates what's the forwarded part of the message. And if you've gotten an email that's gone through several people, you'll notice then there's a green line and a red line and a yellow line. It just goes on and on and on. It indents further and further. And that can be helpful to keep track of the thread of the conversation, or it can be really distracting. So we have another option, and it's called a redirect. And typically it doesn't show up here in the menu bar. I usually add it because it's really helpful. Okay, where's my redirect symbol? Huh?
It's also available as a pull-down.
And it's also available in the pull-downs. Where is it in here? There it is, this funny one. What a redirect does is that sometimes I'll get email from people that's actually meant for Tandy, but they don't know her email address and they know mine. So if I were to redirect this email, it looks like it came from Adrian. Because if she hits reply to, it's not going to reply to me, it's going to reply to Adrian. And I can send this to Tandy, and I'm out of the loop. It's really helpful. So know that you have more options in all of this. Go ahead.
Adrian doesn't know you send them off there. She sends them off there.
Right. And I might include Adrian and say, by the way, Adrian, Tandy's email is XYZ.
It also does usually give you a little thing that tells you who it was redirected from. So it does show me, when I get that email, it does show me that it came through the email.
But when she hits reply, she doesn't have to worry about me.
Sometimes when people send jokes or something,
Uh-huh.
they have blue line, blue line, blue line, blue line, blue line.
Yes. Those are all the forwards that this joke has gone through.
Is there a way to get rid of them?
There is. There is. So if we forward this, this is called the quote level. It has been quoted one time. I've quoted the original message. If I quote it 7 times, there's going to be multiple different color lines, or depending on your program, maybe just all blue lines. However, I can select this information here, and under the message format, here we go, quote level. I can raise it or lower it. So in this case, I want to decrease the quote level to get rid of that silly thing, which frankly is the same as a redirect in this case. And I can take out that header information, but just pulled it over. If I wanted to increase that same thing, so I can do, I think it's this one, yeah. So see how we can, and we've all seen messages like that, huh?
Right.
So that's just one of those ways that you can help your friends out and clean things up as you go. Now, another thing that this window shows us that's really useful is this idea at the top. We talked about who the message is to, but frequently you'll see this line below it that says CC. Now, how many of you worked in an office with typewriters? How many had to use carbon copies for your letters? This is a carbon copy. Saying, I am sending this to you, but you're not the primary person. You just need to know about it. You know, I'm sending this letter to the person who hasn't paid their bill, but I'm letting the finance department know that I've sent the letter. That was what a CC always was. And then there was another type of CC. Do you remember what that one was? BCC. What did it stand for? Blind carbon copy. I'm going to send this to you, but not let anybody else know that I'm sending it to you. And sometimes that's really helpful if you want somebody to be aware of a conversation, aware of an exchange, but you don't want to involve them in it. They don't have to become part of the reply all, for example.
Or,
Yeah. Now, here's the other thing that's really helpful too. Now, you're having a party, and you want to invite 40 of your closest friends, but you don't want to tell all of your friends everybody else's email address. You actually can send an email with nothing in the to and nothing in the BCC and everything in the BCC field. There. Now, everybody will get this message, but they won't see anybody's email address. So that's a way that you can invite people and protect everybody's email address. Very helpful hint. Now, there's a couple other things. Let's create a new message, just so I can work with these things. Now, some of you will see this at the bottom. If you have one email account, you will not see this, because obviously it's coming from that email account. It's all you've got. Since I have multiples, it actually gives me the option to choose where that's coming from. Very important to pay attention to, especially when you're creating a new email. If somebody sends an email to my church email address and I reply to it, it will reply from the church email address unless I change it. So that's typically pretty safe. I don't have to worry too much about that. But if I'm sending something to somebody in the church and I want to be as lay leader as opposed to just myself, I don't want to send it from my business address. It's confusing. And then they'll reply there and things will be weird. So pay attention to that when you send.
So your other email address is in the drop-down?
That's correct. So in this case, I've got the first two are what are called aliases. So they mean the same thing. The third one's my business address. And I've got multiple ones in that way. If we were on my regular account, you'd actually see I have 6 regular email addresses, all distinct from each other. And they serve different purposes. Let's talk about attachments and formatting. You can send, most of you have probably sent files to friends via email. The typical icon is this paperclip icon that you see up on the screen. And that's used in Entourage, Outlook, and Mail. And if you hit that directly, it'll bring up some sort of navigation window for you to go find the file that you want to send. However, this now works with Windows, and it's always worked with the Mac. This idea that if what you really want to do, let me open a window here. Okay, so I have these files from today, and I want to send this one poster to my friend. You actually can just drag and drop it from one to the other. And that works on PC as well now. One thing that the Mac is unique in doing that's very helpful, especially with photographs, is right down here at the bottom, image size. Typically when you send a file or especially a photograph, it's going to send it exactly as you gave it. But if you got a brand new digital camera and you took a full quality picture, that picture is going to be between 3 and 5 megabytes, most likely. Pretty hefty for most people's email. There are a lot of email accounts that still cut you off at 5 megabytes per email. So what Apple did is they give you this drop down over here to say send it as the actual size or to send it at a smaller size. You just want them to see it. You don't need them to print a poster of it. So you might say, you know what? Let me just send it at medium size. Now what's happened is the message size over here has gone from almost 300K down to 158. Not a huge savings in this case. But if this was a photograph that I sent, that would be dramatically different. It would probably go from 3 megabytes to about a half a megabyte. And so you're helping, it's going to send faster, it's going to be better. So the question is, the person you're sending it to, what are they going to use it for? If you just want to see them, have them see that cute picture of your family, send it small. They'll still see the cute picture of your family. It'll look great on their computer. But if it's to a,
There's only 3 choices, medium, small, or actual.
Oh, medium, small, and large, and actual. There's a large as well.
If somebody
But-
wants to print it out, you send it small, can they make it bigger to print out?
No. I mean, they can, but it'll be grainy. There's only so many dots to deal with.
You want to send actual.
Absolutely. If you're sending it to a family for their scrapbook, send them the real thing. But you have these options. Now, we were talking earlier about can you make the text bold or red or whatever you want it to be? And the answer is absolutely you can. I know I'm keep walking into the projection here, excuse me. Yes, I'm sorry.
Something about the attachments.
Attachments.
With the app
Mm-hmm.
is different than Windows, because I tried to send Joan one, and I was push the attachment, but you got the email, but not the attachment.
Well, what happens in that case, so now what she's talking about is that sometimes you send a file to a friend and they don't get it or they can't use it. That's a compatibility issue. For example, Apple has a word processing program called Pages. Great program, it's what I do all my stuff in. But if I send it to my friend with a PC, it's worthless because Pages doesn't exist on the PC. So they're not going to be able to use that file. So I have to be aware that if I send it to my friend with a PC, I send it as, because Pages will actually send it as a Microsoft Word document or as a PDF or as plain text, whatever I want. But you have to be thinking about some of these things. So sometimes we have a file that's in a format that the other computer can't read, Mac, PC, PC, Mac, or your phone, whatever it is. So it just takes you being aware of these issues, and then you go, oh, well, you know what, I'm sending it in this funny thing, but if I send it as a JPEG, everybody can read that. That's a photo. If I send it as a PDF, everybody can read a PDF. If I send it as, and there are some weirdnesses depending on how it was created, and that's always just a compatibility issue. So if the person on the other end said, hey, that didn't work, can you send it another way? Just look at the options that you have.
So you would send it from a document file?
So, but the question is, what kind of document was it? Was it a Microsoft Word document, or was it
It was
from?
a flyer.
Correct, but how was it created?
I
In what program?
pages.
So, correct. So if you create it in Pages and you send Joan the Pages file, she can't use it. But if you send it to Joan, and you have that option right in Pages to send it as a PDF or send it as a Microsoft Word document, no problem. She'll be able to read it.
So that comes up somewhere that says send it this way or send it that way?
Exactly. You have the option to export the file as one of these different things, and when you share it, when you email it to somebody, it asks you, it gives you 3 choices. How do you want to send it? As the original file, as this PDF file, as a Microsoft Word file. That's Pages specific, but for example, Tandy does a lot of work in Adobe InDesign. There's very few people that she can send an InDesign file to, and it'll be fine with that. So she has to think before she sends it, wait, who am I sending it to? Oh, no, I better send it as JPEG, PDF, something that they can, on the other end, see and approve. Okay, so if I say, Dear Bruce, I hate this font. All right, so this is nice and small. This is plain text. About half of all email that's sent is plain text email. It's just the information. And if the person on the other end said, my favorite font is English Gothic, then your message will come through as English Gothic. That's their choice. I have a client like that. Everything she sends is just way overblown. But what you can do is say, I have a specific reason, I want my emails to look a certain way. At this point, you can, just like you can in a word processor or in a page layout program, you can select the text and then choose by going to Format. It's typically in a Format or Style menu, or there may be an icon for text. So in this case, it says, oh, well, here, we don't want to use Helvetica. Let's use, Bergano. Yeah, this is the new mail.
Make it rich text before I do.
No, this is the new mail. And then we want to make it bigger. And we want to make it green. So now, on the other end, even if their font is set to the English Gothic, they're going to get it this way. So some people like this. I mean, literally, it's a brush script font in blue, and it's huge. I mean, you can get like 5 words on a screen. It's hilarious how she sends it, but that's what she does. So you have the ability. Now, where this really comes in handy is, let's suppose you have a document that's been sent to you, a PDF or a Word document or something, and you just want to take part of it out. It'll actually take the formatting from that, the original font, the original size, the original way that it's laid out, and transfer it directly to your email. So it will look very nice. Sometimes if you transfer it and it just goes to Courier or something, it's kind of ugly. So this is called a rich text document. Now we've applied formatting. We've applied style choices to it. So it's rich. If it gets too much, or the person on the other end's having trouble, we can always change it back to just plain text, and it's just the information. Where this also comes in handy is sometimes people will copy things from a web page or a document that has invisible characters in it, characters that are used for formatting, spacing, or other reasons, and then you transfer it to something like an email, and it looks really screwy. And at that point, if you change it to plain text, it strips all that stuff out, and just the facts get up here. Okay, mailboxes. Let's talk about mailboxes. Yes?
Make sure, especially when you're emailing from an iPad, make sure you include a subject. Don't leave the subject blank, because primarily what will happen to that email is it will go directly to the person's spam folder. Automatically.
Spam or junk email, of course, is email that you didn't really want. For example, Beethoven's Fifth at 3:30 in the morning is noise. It's not music, right? Because it's something you don't want to hear at that moment. So now it's noise. Some people really want all the flyers from Bed Bath & Beyond, and they don't just chuck them in the trash when they come in the mail. But to a lot of us, it's junk mail. Same thing's true in email. The choice of whether it's junk or spam or usable mail is up to your preference of what you wish to see. You may want all those fabulous deals on Rolex watches. So you get to choose. Now, there's two parts of this. The email provider will typically tag the message as it goes by, and they'll say, this is probably junk. They'll know from this email address, we get a lot of junk, so it's probably junk. Or if it says, act now, it's probably junk. So they'll put a little code in there, and if your email program reads it, it will actually say, hey, by the way, the provider said that this is bad. What do you want me to do with it? You can also choose, and you can do this in any of the programs, you can choose to say that this is junk. And in this particular case, Apple's chosen to do it by a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If I click on this, I've now marked this as junk mail. And if I was to mark 2 more messages from Adrian as junk, every time I got a message from Adrian, it would say, oh, this is junk. I've been told. It learns your preference.
So you have to do it 3 times to really activate.
3 times really cements it. One time it goes, okay, I'm not sure, and then it starts to get better and better. And all these things have a learning algorithm in them that's watching what you're doing and paying attention. You also, what that means, it's really critical, is that you also want to say it's not. Sometimes you will get a message from a friend in Nebraska, and it's not junk mail, but it showed up in your junk mail folder. For some reason, something they said or something about their email provider or whatever it is, triggered an alarm bell, and somebody said, no, this is junk. So what you do is that if you find it in your junk folder, you say, no, it's not. And then the algorithm starts to go, ooh, wait, hold on, this is a good one. In your settings, in your preferences, in the PC, it's going to be usually under Tools or Settings. Further down, in the Mac, it's always going to be under the name of the program in Preferences. You actually have rules that say, what is it that makes it junk mail or not? So, for example, if the person is actually in my address book, no matter what the content is, it's not junk. I've put them in my address book, they're important to me. If the sender of the message is in my previous recipients, now this is dangerous, because if I've gotten a bunch of email from those guys selling Rolex watches, it may start to recognize that that's okay. That's why I marked them as junk, and it goes, oh, I won't do that. If the message is addressed during my full name, a lot of spam bots, a lot of things that send out a bunch of this junk email, if you look at who it's sent to, Rick Wilson at Mac.com, Rick A. Wilson at Mac.com, Rick Wilsons at Mac.com, it's actually randomly generating these emails and sending them out. And if you look at it, and it's all in alphabetical order, just a ton of these things, that was generated by a spam bot. So it has to actually know my name correctly, or else it won't work. But the most important thing is this. And I choose to leave it in my inbox so I don't miss anything important. It's really easy for me to hit the delete key. The other thing to do is to check your settings for your trash and junk settings. And the reason is, and I'll show you what that looks like. Most people say, well, as soon as I don't want to see it, I want it gone. And my recommendation is, no, you don't. You want to give it a week or 30 days, whatever your choice is. I choose 1 month old. What happens is, as soon as it's in the trash, it's out of my sight. I don't have to worry about that thing. But if I've made a mistake, I have a month to figure it out. Once that message reaches its 1 month birthday, it gets deleted. But it gives me a way out if all of a sudden I haven't seen that message from Joe. He said, well, I sent it last week. I'm like, I go look for it. It's not already going to be gone, because I've chosen to say you have a month to deal with these things. So that option is always available for you. And it's just a good one, because let's face it, things get in the wrong places at times. Mailboxes. Did you have something else? No. Okay. Mailboxes. Now, Apple's made a very bad choice here to represent mailboxes as folders. It's nice because we look at them and we understand what the heck they are, but when we go, okay, I want to make a new folder, we look up here and we see mailbox. There's nothing that says make a new folder. So it's a little counterintuitive at times. But what folders are really wonderful for, mailboxes are really wonderful for, is storing those messages that you wish to keep. Some of my clients have joke folders. This was a good joke, I'm going to keep that one. This is information about the church, I'm going to keep this one. This is information from the family, I'm going to keep this one. This is information about when my next water service is going to be. Okay, I've seen it, I throw it away. What you have is you have two different options. Depending on how your email program is structured, on the Mac it says on my Mac, for example. You can create that mailbox on your computer, or you can create it on the email server it came from, your email server. And here's the difference. If I save it on my computer, it's now gone from every server, and if I look at my email from any other place, I'm on my computer, I put it on my Mac section, I open up my iPad, that email is not there and cannot be found. But if I put it, for example, in iCloud, which is one of my email accounts, it's now being stored not on my computer, but on some computer out in the Nevada desert. And if I pick up my iPad, I look, and sure enough, there's a folder. These folders are actually all on there, on my iPad or on my iPhone or on somebody else's computer even. If I log in, and I have access to all of my email. So if you have a need to access your email elsewhere, you want to create these mailboxes on your email account, and it becomes very, very valuable. If you have a lot of email, it can become a little bit slow, but it really is very helpful. What have I missed?
What email servers does that work with?
It works with any, yes, there's the other thing I got to cover. There's two types of email services. There's a POP account and an IMAP account. Most old email is POP, most new is IMAP, and here's the difference, and they're in your sheets. POP is Post Office Protocol, and at least I hope they're in your sheet. Post Office Protocol is the idea that, think of the old wall of mailboxes, right? And the person gets that message, and they throw it into the pigeonhole, okay? That's it. It's going to stay there. Let's suppose that I have a pigeonhole for each of my computers, one for the iPhone, one for the iPad, one for the computer. So that message is going to get delivered 3 times. But if whoever's first to open it gets it. So let's say the computer opens it, it goes into their pigeonhole, and they get to keep it. The other 2 devices never see it because it gets pulled off the server. So all of a sudden, I'm trying to refer to that message from Nancy, and I don't have it. It's on my computer at home. It's in my inbox, but I still can't get it because it's been removed. So you get physical copies. The way to think about it is you get physical copies, and if you didn't get one, you're out of luck, and if you tear it up, it's gone. Then there's what's called an IMAP account, Instant Messaging Access Protocol. And what it does is it says all of your data is on the server, and instead of having multiple pigeonholes, there's one pigeonhole, and we can all look in it at the same time or at different times. But we don't split it up. So if I open it from my computer or I open it from my iPad, I'm going to see the same message, and if I reply to it, all my other devices will see that I replied to it and can even see the reply. So this is where the server, in this case an iCloud server, Bluehost is what I use for my business, AOL is this way, Google is this way. They're all IMAP accounts. And so you can actually store all this data on your server. And it just becomes really, really handy when you have to look anywhere else. I mean, here's the best thing. You are at somebody's house, you have no electronic devices with you, and you say, oh, I wanted to send you that email about whatever, or show you this picture. Well, you can hopefully remember when you get home. Or you can walk over to their computer, log in as you to your email server. I mean, if you have Google, you can go to gmail.com, log in as you on their computer, and see all of your mail. Just right away, because it's all on the server for you to get anytime you want. So it just becomes in this data-rich life that we live now, it becomes a really, really handy thing. Did you have something else, Mike? Uh-huh.
anybody's house with Roadrunner.
Correct.
And I can do it from my iPad, but only if I go in through the internet
Right.
and sign on.
Right, and that's because Roadrunner actually...
Mail is anything that's new, but there's no way because of the POP server for me to be able to
That's right.
see them.
And Roadrunner actually is one of those services that drive us nuts because they really lock down where you can use Roadrunner and when you can't. And primarily you can use Roadrunner where there's a Roadrunner service, where there's cable. But if you go somewhere and they have DSL and you try to send a Roadrunner email, nine times out of 10 it won't work because Roadrunner said, no, you can't send that way.
What if you want to forward an email to somebody that, like a joke or whatever,
Sure.
and you know they would like it, but they don't want everybody else's who it came, like.
Absolutely. But remember, when we forward an email, we don't get, first of all, we're going to send it to only them. We're not going to send it to anybody else. And that they don't want all these names here, right? Just delete them. Just, as simple as you can click there and hold down the delete key if you want, if that's your comfort level. Or you can click and drag the mouse through all this stuff you don't want and just hit delete. So that's what we were talking about earlier about cleaning up your emails. Because it's respectful of your friends to say, no, this is actually the only stuff I care about. Now, let's do it a different way. If I say, let's see if hopefully this works correctly. If I say I want to forward this, no junk. It only forwarded what I asked it to. If I forward the entire message, I get all that extra information. But if I choose beforehand, just the joke gets sent. Other questions?
The toolbar and things of that type,
Uh-huh.
those are not available on mail on the iPad, or once again, it's dependent upon
They are.
what your real mail service.
No, this is, what's up here is dependent upon the program. And since this was written by Apple and that's written by Apple, those are available. They're not available as a toolbar because it would waste space on a small screen. So all of those options are there, but you have to look at where they are. They're just in different places in your view.
So you can get them from somewhere and put them
Yeah.
there.
No, you can't. And the reason you can't modify that is just because it takes up too much room on the screen. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, let's see if this whiz-bang trick works. I love this one. Let's see. All right. So if I turn this on, yep, right over that. Perfect. Love it. Okay, so now we're on the iPad, and we want to go to Mail. Now, what happens is up here we have the options to. We have some of the things we've seen in the toolbar. We can file it. Right. We can't just drag it over. So we can file it in any folder we want. We can delete it. Or, now this is not just a return. This is not just a reply, but it gives us options. There's our forward as well. There's not a redirect option in Mail on the iPad at this time. But if there were multiple people, there would be a reply and a reply all and a forward, as well as the print here. So they've just condensed it into a single icon to save screen space.
Information you have below your time bar,
Yeah.
I have on mine.
I don't even,
Okay, which,
The very first,
your very top line.
the very top line, does not appear.
oh, this up here?
Yeah,
Yes, because that's my computer.
that's on the back.
We're viewing my iPad through my computer right now.
Yeah, this is okay.
So here, I'll show you an easier way to look at this. Hold on. Do this. That part's the iPad.
Right. But like, how do you, if you're doing a message, how do you pick different font size, colors, things like that?
Very good. So if I want to send a new message, I'll just put that there. I'll send it to Tandy. There we go. Now down here, if I select this text, see that? So you have your bold and underline quote level, so I can increase the quote level on that. So I want to make that bold. Now, what they don't give us is they don't give us the option to choose our font here. However, if you really want a specific font, you can make this message in Pages or something else that can handle full fonts, and then copy it in, and it'll retain that. They've given us basic information, bold, italics, underline, but nothing, not font size, not color at this time. Okay, no problem. Okay, so you've got your message that you're sending. Select the text that you're interested in. To select, you want to double tap on, say, a word, and then you can just draw out how much you want to select there. And then we see our normal cut, copy, paste, the most typical commands you're going to use in this situation. But if we hit the arrow, we get more. And there's how we can increase our quote level, for example. It can really annoy people now. Yeah. The quote level is if you forwarded on an email and then they forwarded it and they forwarded it, every time they do that, the quote level increases and you get these bars. Yeah, that's what those bars mean. This idea has been quoted over time and time again. And rarely do we want to increase it. Typically, we want to decrease it and stop annoying everybody. You'll see that we still have the CC and the BCC available to us, just like in the regular mail. Delete that draft. And actually, that's another really good trick to learn. In any email program, you can create what's called a draft message. The idea of a draft message is, if I create a new email here, and I don't address it, and this is a really good thing to do, write the email first, address it last. What's the last thing you do with a paper letter? Put it in the envelope. Do the same thing with your digital messages. How many of you have sent an email before it was ready to be sent, or because you were angry and you sent it right then and you probably should have waited an hour? I need more hands. This saves me. Okay? So what you do is you write your message as a draft. And when you close it, here I'll put in my stuff, and I want to do this. It says, shall I delete the draft or save it? And I'll say, save that as a draft. And now in my mailboxes up here, now I'm writing this through my iCloud account. You'll notice I have a draft mailbox. Oh, I guess I wrote it through a different account. Let's see. I'm not sure which account I wrote it in. It's not helpful. Obviously, on the computer, it has more screen real estate. It'll show me right away. But in the drafts there, if this was the account I use, it's going to show up there as an option for me. Let me try this one again. No, it didn't go there. So I can come back to it. And the best part is, sometimes I will start an email and have to stop because I've run out of time, or I don't have all the information I need. Because I have that drafts mailbox, I can actually pick it up on my computer when I get home. It's still sitting there waiting for me. It hasn't been sent. It hasn't gone anywhere, and it's not on the one device. It's on the internet. So I can grab it, continue on with it. Maybe you need to go somewhere with an iPad and do some research. You finish it up there. Whatever the answer is. So now my iPad's a good example. There's the email accounts. So I have one for church, one's Tandy's business, one's my business, one's a personal account, one's for the Girl Scout team I work with. So it keeps things a little segregated. I get way too many emails, but at least it keeps my life a little more organized. Any other questions about mail on any device?
Sometimes I get a joke with picture.
Uh-huh.
And I see it perfectly. And when I go to forward it, the picture's not there, just this little icon.
Right. So if you actually select the text with the picture and do your forward, it will retain it. Yeah. Yeah, it depends on the program, but some of them prefer not to send on a bunch of information if they can help it. It's not the service. It hasn't even left your computer yet. It's not the service. It's in the email program. Again, it's in the program. It's not in the service. To send a picture and a message, I do it all the time.
To do a forward and have an attachment or a benefit forward.
Well, if you truly believe you can't do that, then here's the other thing you do. Select the text and the picture, copy it, create a new message, and paste it in.
I tried it, it doesn't always work, but if I save it
Mm-hmm.
to a file, then I take that and put it, but that's a lot of,
That is a lot of work. It shouldn't work that way. It's certainly not intended to work that way. Ted, you had a question.
Yeah, I had a question about the cellular data plan.
About cellular data plan? Sure.
Yeah, you said we don't, if we're at home, we can,
If you have Wi-Fi at home, you don't need it.
we don't need it.
Correct.
Now I'm getting messages about there's no data remaining on your
Okay, so,
plan because I deleted it.
well, because you stopped it, and that's fine. When you buy, if you have an iPad or not the iPhone. If you have an iPad and you buy the cellular data plan, it is a month-to-month plan. So when you turn on that service on your iPad, you can turn it on and off as you please, but whether you use the data or not, when that month is over, it's gone. Whether the data is used up or the time is used up, whichever comes first, it's done. The cellular data in that case. They're just saying your month's up or the data was used up. You should check to make sure it actually is turned off right now, because it shouldn't be giving you that message if it's turned off. So check in settings to make sure cellular data is off. But once you turn it on, it doesn't matter whether you use 10 megabytes of it or the whole thing. You're going to pay for the whole thing. So it's up to you. Now, if you have Wi-Fi at home, and if you have Wi-Fi here at the church, for example, and that's the two primary places you use your device, you don't need to turn on cellular data at all until you go on that trip and you decide it's worth it to have while we're on the trip because I don't want to pay for it in the hotel, or I want to have it while we're driving. Then it's worth it. But that's the advantage of this system, is that you can turn it on and off at your will. You had one? No? Oh, okay. Talking in the back of the room is what's going on here. Mike?
Safari,
Yes.
Yahoo account,
Okay.
mail, and it tends to delete older messages. How do I get it so I don't want it to delete those older messages?
That's going to be a setting on Yahoo. Because remember, your internet browser is simply a window into the internet. It doesn't have any control over that. So all of that's happening on Yahoo's servers at this time. And so in your account settings for Yahoo, there should be an option. I don't know that one specifically. We could go look at it after this if you like. But there should be a setting that says, just like there is in every email account, how long should I keep this?
Okay, so that's really Yahoo.
Yes, it's on the Yahoo end.
I may have tried to get in through, or do it on Safari.
Now, we have and it's fine, whether you went in on Safari or Firefox or Chrome or Opera or any of the other browsers, the results are going to be the same because the browser has no effect on it. You're looking through a window at your data. So your data is being handled elsewhere. One interesting thing, you can say, well, I set my settings right and it's still going away. One of my clients had emails out of his email box that were disappearing after 3 days. No matter what, and we went and looked at his settings, and they clearly said, don't erase. But he had an iPhone. And if you looked at the settings on the iPhone, it said erase after 3 days. Same account. So whoever was first deleted them, and then that was it. So if you have multiple devices, make sure you check the settings on all your devices for what is happening there. Go ahead.
Yeah, with iCloud, which is, I guess, obviously recommended if you have more than one Apple device.
Uh-huh.
You select, I'm looking at it here right now, you select those things that you wanted to replicate. Is that correct?
To replicate?
Well, essentially, if I create an email here.
Correct.
And send it,
It's-
if I have mail turned on.
Yeah.
Under iCloud, then it sends it up there. If I
That-
don't, it doesn't.
Well, if you don't, then it's not going anywhere, because if that's the only account you have, then it has no way to go anywhere. No, iCloud is your server, just like Google is, just like Roadrunner is, or just like Bluehost is for the church. iCloud is a service. iCloud is Apple's service to provide email, contacts, and calendars So if you want to send via that address, it has to be turned on.
Is there there's no charge for it?
Correct. It's totally free. There's no charge for Google either. Totally free. And they do the same thing. Email, contacts, calendars, photos, all free.
So you want iCloud.
If you have an Apple device, you want iCloud. It just makes your life simple. You sign in one time and it goes, hey, shall I take care of your calendar? Shall I take care of your contacts? Shall I take care of your photos? Shall I take care of your email for you? Do you want your bookmarks from your web browser on your computer to be the same as the bookmarks on your iPad? You know, all of those things. It'll manage all of that for you if that's what you want.
It'll also do backup for you.
It'll also do backup for you. It will not do backup from your computer, but it will do backup from your iOS device. iPhones, iPads, iPhone, all that. So if I go to the mail here, now I'm using a webmail account. In this case, I'm using iCloud's webmail account. And so since it's Apple and they're tricky, it's going to look very similar and very blown out on this projection, but very similar to Apple's mail program. But if I went in and instead used my Bluehost account for the church, it's going to look very different. But there's all my mail, just like before. And if we look down here, there's the message from Adrian. Looks just the same. Even he has the stylized font for his signature.
But the right side is cut off.
It is only, yeah, this, I think our window,
Well, you should be able to get rid of the thing on the left side,
yeah.
and then it probably all fits.
Yeah, this is just small real estate.
Doing it, and I couldn't. With something.
I can also open it up this way by double-clicking on it, and it comes up in full. This is probably just a window resizing issue. I have my window way smaller than I ever have it on my computer so that I can reflect it up there.
But you could have an iCloud mail account and not have any other
Absolutely.
account.
Yeah, I know plenty of people do. That's their sole account.
Yeah.
And that's great.
You never use that as what you're sending from. You're always sending from one of your other.
But one of them is my iCloud account. If I send a personal email that's not related to a business or the church or the Girl Scouts, it goes out as iCloud. It's not at iCloud.com, it's at me.com. That's what the name of their service is. But that's what it is. It's just a webmail. And I rarely use the webmail, but if I am somewhere and I need to get at it, it's just nice to know that I have it. And like I said, Darrell, with the church, we use a service called Bluehost for our server. She just goes to bluehost.com, Northridge UMC. This is kind of fun to see, actually. Let me do it. So if you go here, northridgeumc.org, you get the church website. If you then go to add the word mail after it, you get to the webmail for the church. And if you have a church account, you can actually fill in your data here and have all your church email. So people who have, LA Freenet or Roadrunner, you can do this with Roadrunner. You can actually go in and have access to all of your information another way. Okay, so wow, we've gone an hour on just email. Amazing. And we can do the whole thing on email. We can pick up other stuff later. That's fine.
So the only reason you have multiples is because you want to use different ones for
Yes,
business, personal, church. etc.
that's exactly it.
But otherwise, there's no reason not to just have one.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's the old joke about if, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. We showed that cartoon a couple times ago. You can however you represent yourself is how the other person sees you, if they don't know you otherwise. So if I'm making a communication on behalf of the church, I go as my church email. If I'm doing it a business way, I represent myself as a business. Especially as a computer consultant, if I have an AOL address, I'm not going to get hired a lot, because that means you really don't know much about computers, about what can go wrong with computers if you're still using AOL. And I literally have moved I've moved all but 2 of my clients off of AOL because it just is such a headache. But if they see that when you get an email from me for my business, it actually is my business name. So rick@helpformac.com. It's not at Google, it's not at iCloud, it's not at Roadrunner, it's at my business. And they go, oh, you went through the trouble of actually figuring out that. You've all gotten email from people at Coldwell Banker or Bank of America or whatever it is. And it's that extra step of saying, yes, I care about the image that I project. I'm going to have this corporate image. Anything else on email? So since we did spend a lot of time on that, so we may have to shortcut some of the rest of it, but we can always pick it up. We have more of these. Just briefly, let me get iChat. We talk about IM, or instant messaging. And this can happen on either your phone. If you're texting on your phone, that's a form of instant messaging. And you can do it, here it is, and you can do it on your computer. There's a number of programs that do this. If we're just doing texting, text messaging, you know, AOL's Instant Messenger, AOL's online service does it. This is called iChat or Messages, depending on which version of the software you're in. You can use Skype to do just texting. You can use any of these programs also to send photographs, to show people your computer screen. Actually, Skype and iChat/Messages both allow you to show your screen to the other person or for them to show it to you. And you can do video and audio. Right before this meeting, I have a regular weekly conference call with an advisor, and we do it over Skype, and it's just audio only. But we both just run Skype, catch each other, and then we both are working on our computers and talking back and forth. The reason I wanted to bring this up is that this is where emoticons, and you'll find a whole graph of emoticons in your handout, came into view. Primarily on the phone, because instead of texting a whole bunch of words to describe how you feel right now, you could text 3 little letters and you get a sad face or a happy face or sticking your tongue out at somebody or whatever it is. Send a little heart. And it's just a fun other way of communication. It's a whole other language. It's enormous in Japan and all across Asia, but it's very, primarily it's used here too. So if I wanted to send a message to Tandy, I could say, hi, be home soon. And then if I wanted to get cute, I could type the emoticon. If I wanted to just put a smiley face, which is a colon, a hyphen, and a parentheses, and it's a face on its side. Now, this program's smart enough that it actually converts it. Well, she's offline, so it's not going to work. It'll convert it into a picture. And these are emoticons down here. Let's see if I can... I can't zoom in on that area right now. But it'll actually convert it into a little picture. But if you don't, if you ever see that in a message and you think somebody just went wild on the keyboard, if you see that colon and the parentheses, you've got a smiley face. Or you could have some figure 8 and a parentheses, you've got somebody with glasses who's smiling. So that's just a funny little thing, but I wanted you to know that when you see that in a message, where the heck did that come from? And that's what that's about. Now, Skype, or video messaging. Skype is a brand name like Kleenex or Xerox. And so they're one of the most popular ones, but they're by not at all the only way you can video chat. So remember, we're text chatting, typing, we're audio chatting, back and forth just like on the telephone, and then we're video chatting. So if we go to Skype, which I have apparently turned off, Skype, comes up. There we go. We're into my account. I can ask to see who's online, and I see that Allegra's online up at her office, so we can find out if she's available. My friend Mark Hiskey is online, and I have just a test call with Skype. So if you ever want to see if your internet connection is any good, you can just use that, and you'll find out how good it is. Now, the advantage of this is that, for example, when Allegra was in Hawaii at college, or right now Celia is in San Francisco, we communicate a lot over video chat, because you know that you can tell a lot more about a person by watching them speak than just hearing them speak. You get a lot more clues. So you really know how somebody's doing when you see them face to face. So yes?
So they're online, so they can be on their computer, but they have to have their Skype turned on?
Yes, in this case they absolutely do. If you're using the Skype program, if they're not running Skype and deliberately saying, I'm online, they will not show up in my list here. Now, my list is currently set to online people. If I say all, here's everybody who I could potentially Skype with, and it's a big, long list.
Because they're all on their computer.
These are people that I know about who potentially I don't even know for sure that they have Skype accounts. But my computer says they could, and if all of a sudden one of them lit up green, I'd know that that person is online, has a Skype account. I could send them a message, and they may get back to me in a few weeks.
Okay, but if,
Stuff.
but you have to have that turned on, though. I mean, they have to.
You have to be online and in the application for me to see them online. Only these people actually have Skype running. Now, in the case of something like messaging, where we can also do video and audio, if Tandy just has her cell phone on, and since the messaging app works on the phone, it works on the iPad, it works on the computer, and it doesn't need to be the front app. It doesn't need to be the one that's running. If she's just online and available, it's an option, and I can send her a message and it'll pop up a dialogue and say, hey, do you want to talk to Rick? In the case of Skype, since it is a specific brand application, you have to be using their service.
But you'd be sending a message, tell me it on.
Turn it on.
Yeah, I mean, I have one person whose family is in Israel, and so she calls them and says, let's Skype, and then hangs up. So she has a 10-second phone call, and then they get on Skype, and then they can talk all day long for free. Skype gives you not only gives you the basic messaging, text, audio, and video, and screen share, but if you're doing it to another Skype client, it's free. Skype also allows you to call any telephone in the world. At that point, it costs, but it's cheaper than using your telephone to a telephone. You know, it's like 2 cents a minute to India or something. Mm-hmm.
How do you know whether Allegra is talking to somebody else on Skype?
I have no clue. And so if I invite her, she may say no. So so if I simply double click on Allegra here, I now have the option to send a file, send contacts, share the screen, add people, whatever, or I can video call her, or in this case, let's see, why can't I text her? Well, let's see if she's willing to be video called. If she's in a message, if she's in a meeting, she'll turn me down, but let's find out. So on the other end, her computer is ringing like a phone right now.
But she could be in the background.
Yep. So Allegra went offline. So she's like, I can't be bothered right now. So she may be in a meeting talking with somebody, and this is distracting. So she said, no, don't do it.
If you know someone has Skype,
Uh-huh.
you just use their email address?
You have to actually, well, you can. If that person only has one email address, then you're good to go. If there's somebody like me, you're hit or miss. Right. So then you can find them that way. You can also just ask them, what's your Skype name? And then they'll tell you, and you can just type that in, and you'll get them right away. So if you,
But you have to.
well, so she's Allegra. There's not a lot of Allegras in the world, so she got that, but I'm not going to get Rick.
So you
But I
have
can get
to
Rick.
ask for a Skype link.
Yeah, when you sign up for Skype, it's like a 3-step process. It takes you about a minute total, and they'll ask you, what's your email address? What do you want to call yourself? And then do you want a picture and all those things.
What's the difference between iChat and FaceTime and Skype?
There are 3 different programs that do the same thing. The main difference is iChat and FaceTime and AOL all use the same system, so you can kind of use them interchangeably, whereas Skype uses its own system, like its own telephone lines. So I can't talk to a Skype person in FaceTime.
So is one better than the other or not?
Ironically, no, but it depends on where you are and when you are. There are times you can actually do video chatting right through Facebook now, and it's quite good. And so,
Use the Skype algorithm.
yeah, they use the Skype algorithm for that. But what happens is that sometimes we will contact one of the girls, and we get a terrible connection. And you go, oh, okay, hold on, let's switch over to FaceTime. Let's switch over to Skype. Let's switch over to, and try again. So if a lot of people are on the system, sometimes it'll get bogged down. And you just flip over somewhere else and try again. But typically Skype does very well, and they're very good at dropping the quality of the call but still maintaining it if everything gets way too busy. Mike?
Does iChat have a test call?
iChat doesn't have a test call. Yeah, that'd be nice to do it, but
iChat that's on the Apple
Mm-hmm.
If somebody else has Apple with iChat, they can.
Works fine, absolutely. What, for, what,
Again, you would use their email address, or would they have an iChat?
you'd use their email address at that point, yeah. One thing I do a lot, and that's what all these systems are so wonderful for, is if I have a client who calls or a family member who calls and they're having trouble with their computer, I can say, okay, run iChat or run Skype, and then I'll send them a quick invitation saying, let me see your computer. And then I can take over. And what's really great about that, and it's great for you, and you don't have to worry about it, is that I don't get to choose when I have control of your computer. You have to say, it's okay. And when we're done with this call, I'm out again, period. I don't get to come back unless you say it's okay. So while I technically have the ability to configure your computer so that you'll never know if I'm there, I don't do that with my clients, and I'm very clear about it. And they'll say, well, can't you just do it? And I say, yes, I can. But don't you want to know when I'm there? Wouldn't you rather know if I'm in your computer or not? I have a few clients who actually don't want to know. They want things to be taken care of, and they just want to keep working. That's fine. It's a choice. But I think for most people, their privacy, because I see everything you're doing, I think your privacy is tantamount. And so I'd rather say, may I? And you say, yes, now's a good time, or no, now is not a good time. And we go that way. Question? Oh, I saw your pen up, I think.
Is FaceTime, once again, Apple?
FaceTime is Apple's product, yeah. You want to, are you on my network? Or are you on the church's network? Yeah, why don't you switch over? Or actually, you could just run, yeah, why don't you switch over? It'll be a little smoother. Well, no, you're right, then we can do that. Let me do it. Hold on. So, there's FaceTime. Let's see if Tandy's online. All right. So I have to sign in as me so they know who my friends are. Okay, yes. Now I'm configuring this because this is a presentation account I use. I'm not using my main account on my computer so that we don't have to bother it. There's Tandy. Definitely one of my favorites. I'll go here. Come on. I always forget how to do this.
I noticed you didn't add her to favorites.
Well, it did now, see? So I'll go to her me.com. Here we go. So, all right, what am I doing wrong here? There we go. So just by clicking on her email address now, I've sent her a request. Hopefully it's going there. Well, it's ringing on this end. So it looks better on the computer, but you'll see up here I've got a picture of Tandy that she's put up there saying this is what I'm like. You want to try calling me? See what happens. It failed. You feel really bad. There you go. It wasn't set up before. Yeah, Tandy's iPad before was one of the first generation that didn't have the camera, so she didn't have this in there. There it is. Now she wants to talk. I accept that. We can yell across the room at each other or yell through the computer. There we go. There she is. So it's been great for my parents to see the girls when they're away at college and stuff. So it's a fun way to see the grandkids. And it's fun to be able to do it from your iPad because you can be anywhere in the house. If you have a laptop, that's cool. They're leaving. And actually, since you have cameras on both sides of the iPad, you can flip it around and take somebody on a tour of your house or whatever you want to do. You flip it. So you're going to flip it? Okay. There it is. So now she's turned it around.
Yes.
So
My daughter was in Europe and we were babysitting and we did whatever we did to see each other. And our daughter held the thing, the computer, whatever, out the window and was showing her, what everything looked like in the hotel room and all
Oh, nice.
the grandchildren loved it.
So the thing that these really do is they do just open you up to a much bigger world. Some people like Facebook, some people don't, but you reach out to people that you wouldn't have reached out to otherwise, and it's kind of fun. With video, you really are getting a lot of information, and it's just a great way to talk to people. And it's actually great to, one reason my parents like it so much is that they're both hard of hearing. And if they can see you, see your lips moving, it just all makes a little more sense. So, any questions?
So do you just, when you want to go, I know Skype is free, but what do? Just do Skype.com?
Skype.com, absolutely.
Goes on and asks you about it.
Yeah, and right on the front page, since you're going there generically as just any user, it'll say, oh, you probably don't have Skype yet. Here, download it, and programs like Skype and Eventbrite and stuff are really, Evernote, are really smart because they'll detect what kind of computer you have, and they'll only show you the download for the Mac or the PC. They're not going to show you. You won't accidentally get the wrong one. So they're going to take care of that stuff for you. And just download it. It's free. It's easy. And
But contact the people first and see if they have any Skype name.
It'll actually, if you want it to, it'll actually say, can I look at your address book? And it'll scan your address book and see, oh, I know this person, and it'll actually show you who's a Skype member. So it's a nice thing. Well, I think that's probably a good place to stop it. If anybody has questions, I'm here, but thank you all for coming. See you on April 11th for photography.